Hello and welcome to this week two of our series of 8 looking at this subject of meditation. Thank you very much for joining, whether online or recorded. This week, we're going to get into the real nitty gritty of how this meditation thing works. I'm going to give you way too much information. This class could easily be 8 classes. But the intention is not for you to remember everything that we talk about. It is much more intended to throw quite a lot of information at you and quite a few different little exercises, meditative exercises. And the real hope is not that you try and remember it all, but merely that you hopefully will start to change the way you look at meditation and the way you see it. And that you won't need to remember anything for. You'll keep that forever. Additionally, this will, of course, be recorded, so you can always come back to it. And each day this week in our daily meditations, I'll be reviewing each of the little pieces that we cover in review. But before we get started, let's meditate. So if I can invite you to take your seat, whatever's comfortable for you, if you're on a cushion or in a chair, invite you to be comfortable but alert. So alert but comfortable is what we're going for. And just invite you to take a nice deep breath in and let it all the way out. And then once again, take a nice deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. Now let it out very slowly, releasing any tension you might be holding in your face, in your body, your hips. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that, or perhaps just lower your gaze. And just allowing your breathing to return to normal. And just like to invite you to notice what you've walked into this class with in terms of what's on your mind in your life. What are the major pressures? What are the major responsibilities? What are your worries? What are your hopes? What are your fears? What are your plans? Just noticing that there is always quite a lot of stuff in our heads fighting for our attention. And just see if you can notice all of those pressures and then see if you can give yourself permission to put them down for the next short while, maybe even the whole 90 minutes. What if you're exactly where you need to be and everything was exactly as it was supposed to be? Could you just be present in this moment with this breath? Just seeing if you can leave everything alone and allow yourself just to relax into an awareness of this breath right now. Perhaps noticing the sensation just at that very first moment where the air comes in, either across your lips or in your nostrils. You may notice how your mind tries to pull your attention to think about something else. We really try not to judge that. Part of this exercise is about starting to notice and become more familiar about our own mind. So, seeing if you can just notice your mind doing its thing, and then see if you can bring yourself back ever so gently without fighting the mind, ever so gently, just having another look at the next breath. Perhaps noticing how your body is moving as you breathe. Once again, just noticing where your attention is. There's a couple of things we're doing here. We are becoming more familiar with the present moment of just being here in this moment now with this breath. And we are also becoming more familiar with our mind and noticing how it flits and it takes our attention. And see if you can just observe that without judging it, without wishing it was different. Just notice the mind doing its thing, and then see if you can come back to the next breath. The last couple of minutes, just encourage you to keep persevering. Sometimes it can feel like a bit of an effort to keep noticing and keep returning our attention to the breath, just one at a time. Return your attention to this breath right now. And for the last couple of breaths, just seeing if you can let everything go to be present. Just to invite you to take a nice deep breath in and let it all the way out. And always trying to be quite gentle with ourselves as we transition out of the meditation, just seeing if we can carry some of that presence in this moment with us as we come out of the meditation into our room. Perhaps opening your eyes, noticing different colors, different shapes in the room. So thank you all very much for joining. As I said, so week 2, really going to dig down into this nitty-gritty of how meditation works. Like, what are we really trying to do? What's going on in this meditation thing? And there's very much a philosophy in traditional philosophy of teaching meditation has always been to just get you to sit somewhere, and they say, okay, sit comfortably but alert. Pay attention to your breathing. When you get distracted, come back to the breath. And then they leave you alone for 20 years to kind of work it out. Some people call this the mushroom farm theory of meditation teaching because they keep you in the dark and feed you nothing, basically. Anyway, I understand it. There is a reason for this. I don't think it's a terribly good reason, but there is a reason. And it is, you can take it back to Archimedes if you like. So Archimedes, this Greek mathematician, probably, I mean, he invented all sorts of things or discovered many, many things about mathematics. But one of the things he's most famous for is this story about how he ran through the streets of Syracuse, naked, Syracuse in Greece, completely naked, yelling, Eureka. And the reason for this, according to one of the stories anyway, is that he had been wrestling with this quite complicated mathematical problem. Something to do with how do you discover the volume of an irregularly shaped object. So, for example, let's say your body. How do you know what the volume of that is? How do you measure it mathematically? How would you calculate it? And he'd been set this problem for various reasons, quite important reasons to do with whether or not it was counterfeit money or something like that. Anyway, so the story goes. Anyway, so gets into his bath because he's quite frustrated, been struggling with his problem, can't work it out. And as he gets into the bath, he notices how the water level rises in the bath. We've probably all noticed that. So it's very difficult to calculate what the volume of an irregularly shaped object like your body is, but it's very easy to calculate what the volume of the water is that as it rises. So from where the water was to where it is. You can calculate that if the bath is a regularly shaped object. It's pretty easy. So all of a sudden, he'd worked out how you'd calculate the volume of an irregularly shaped object. And he was so excited, he leapt out of the bath and ran through the streets of Syracuse naked, having forgotten to put on his clothes. Now, you have just discovered how to find out the volume of an irregularly shaped object. And you are probably not, at least I hope not, running through the streets of Edinburgh or wherever you are naked. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is you probably didn't really care that much about solving this problem. But the other one is that you got given that information for free. And there's something about human psychology where we don't really value what we get for free as much as we do if we have to work it out for ourselves. So there's this aspect of learning that if you give somebody the answer straight away and without any effort, they don't value it. And then it's not precious. And it's not as important or valuable to them as if they'd worked it out themselves. So there is this theory. Put somebody on the cushion, tell them, oh yeah, focus on your breathing. When you get distracted, come back to the breathing. And then 20 years later, or in my case, about 30 years later, you start to work out what the hell it is you're supposed to be doing and what's going on here. So I understand that. I understand that theory. There may be other theories, but I understand that one. I just don't think it's good enough because so many people struggle. And I don't think you're giving away the Holy Grail by telling people in detail, what is it we're doing in this meditation thing? So that's what I want to do, is take you through a flying course around the 8 things that I think are the fundamental building blocks of meditation. And when I started teaching this, I tried to say there were 3. And I've always tried to keep it down because I remember reading a book by, I think it was John Kabat-Zinn, and he's got like 12. And I thought, 12 is too many. Nobody can remember 12. It's too complicated. You have to bring it around to 3. There's this rule of 3s. Everything should be 3. So I think I started with 3. But now I think, no, but there's another one. And this is really important. And you've got to talk about this. So anyway, we're going to talk about 8. But they're in categories. So you don't have to remember them. You really don't have to remember them all. I want to take you on a journey through them. And we'll try and experience each of them and try and see each of them in a slightly different way. And I think my goal is that over the 90 minutes, you will hopefully see the whole subject of meditation in a slightly different way. Okay, let's start. And we're going to cover 3 all at once. These are 3 critical things. I probably talked about them all the time. I've talked about them before, already talked about them tonight. And these are these 3 aspects of awareness, attention, and focus. So awareness, attention, and focus. And they're all interlinked quite closely. So attention is this really, really valuable thing. It's critically important in our whole life. It's this idea of where is your focus, roughly? So focus and attention, similar, very, very slightly different. But what are you paying attention to right now? And I'd love to believe that you're still paying attention to me on this video. But you might be thinking, oh, I forgot to do this, or I got to do that, or I wonder what that meant, or why is he talking about Archimedes, or wherever your mind has gone, wherever that is, that's where your attention is. Now, this thing about what we're paying attention to, it is absolutely critical for our whole life. What we pay attention to determines how we perceive reality. So, for example, if you are very focused on everything that's wrong with your life or the world or politics or human beings or whatever it is, the weather, if you're focused on what's wrong with all that stuff, that determines your reality. And you will increasingly see more and more things that are wrong. And that will put you in a particular state of mind and a particular mood and a particular set of thoughts and a particular set of emotions and a particular set of feelings. That will determine your reality. So where we place our attention dictates how we perceive reality. So reality is very rarely as we see it. It's just how we've chosen to, what are the filters through which we've seen it. And where we are focused determines a lot of those filters. So we don't end up seeing reality as it is. we see it through our filters. On the other hand, if you choose to focus your attention on everything that you're grateful for, on everything that's good in life, every piece of good fortune you've had, every person who's been kind to you, every piece of luck you've had, if you focus on that, that is where your attention is. That's how you'll perceive reality, and you will walk around in a much happier state of mind. And this is not the same as sort of positive thinking or optimism. This is about understanding this aspect that our attention dictates our reality. And your attention is basically either directed by you or it's directed for you and it's taken. So, for example, we try in meditation, we start by directing our attention on the breath. And we say, okay, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to put myself in the present moment. I'm going to pay attention to the breath. And then we all know what happens next. Our mind drags our attention away. Now, in society, there is this every single day, every moment of every day, your attention is either where you've chosen to put it, or it's where it's been dragged to, either by your emotions about worries, about concerns, about what somebody else said, about something you read, about something you see, about an advertisement, about a social media post, about an email. So either your attention is where you want it to be, or it's been directed by somebody else involuntarily. So this is a big part of meditation, is we are starting to play with this really, really important thing in our lives called our attention. And it's one of the only things I know. It's one of the only trainings I know where we play specifically with attention. Now, there's a very slight difference between attention and focus, and it's quite an interesting difference. So attention is quite a wide field. Like one of the examples that's given is, let's say your attention might be, you go to a party and there are lots of people and your attention is in the room and you're aware of the noise and the music and the chat and the people and what they're wearing and the clothing and where you get a drink and all that kind of stuff. So your attention is sort of generally in the room about what's going on. But your focus is much more specific. So let's say you see somebody you like, a friend. And once you see them, everything else kind of goes into soft focus. It's not that your attention isn't still in the room, but focus has got much more specific. So in meditation, sometimes we place our focus very specifically on a very specific sensation. And most of what we did last week and that first meditation we did is about getting very specific with our focus onto a particular sensation of the breath. And sometimes it helps to get really, really detailed in our focus as a way of holding the attention really in this moment right now. So getting more specific. But sometimes in meditation, we open our focus and just try to be open to everything that's present in this moment. So it might be, and we'll do this meditation in a little bit, where you start perhaps by keeping your focus really, really closely on the breath. But then you also start to notice the sensations in your body. So you open up your attention to have a much looser focus. And then to see if you can hold in your attention both the sensation of your breathing, but also the sensations in your body. And then you might open it up to also bring into your attention an awareness of sound. So what are the sounds around you? Maybe there's the wind or a car going by, or you can hear the refrigerator or a fan or whatever it is you start to notice the sounds from moment to moment, each very specifically just in this moment. But we're paying attention to our breathing, to the sensations in our body, to sounds, to perhaps what we can see, even if our eyes are closed. And in this way, we have this very wide focus that our attention is still in the present moment, but we're paying attention to many, many, many things, sort of at the same time. Just check my notes, see if that's everything. Oh, yes, very important thing. Well, Maybe we'll get back to that. So, and then there's awareness. So attention, focus, and awareness. And awareness is this thing that sits behind our attention, our focus. So valuable. It's the other thing we are training in meditation. It's the awareness of where is our attention, where is our focus. So, and with awareness, we then have that ability to choose, is our attention where we want it to be? So once we have some understanding of awareness, of attention, what is this attention? Where am I paying attention to? Where is my mind? Then there's that awareness to be able to see that, to perceive that. So these are 3 things we're starting to play with in meditation. So sometimes people think meditation's about, and I'm going to come back to this point over and over again. People think that meditation is about clearing the mind. It's about having that complete calm and tranquility and equanimity of just no mind, of just no thoughts or something. And I get that. And there are some reasons for that perception. But definitely, for the most part, the most important part is it's not about that. To start with, the building block, the process of getting to interesting places in meditation, both in the very short term, in terms of, the fact that most of us just want to feel a bit better, or in the longer term of wanting to experience some kind of interesting discovery about ourselves or the nature of the universe or spirituality or something like that. Whether your interest is short term, just I just want to feel better, or it's longer term, bigger picture about consciousness and things like that. The process is the key thing. And the process is about attention, focus, and awareness. And of course, it's about 5 other things, but we'll get to those. So in the meantime, let's do another meditation. Really playing with these ideas: awareness, focus, attention. So all I want you to do in this meditation, and I'll guide you through a lot of it, but really noticing where your attention is, placing your attention on the breath, really trying to apply that focus very narrowly, perhaps to just the sensation of your breathing. And then we'll open it up a little bit. But also, when you get distracted, when you start thinking, when your mind drags you away, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Notice that this attention thing that you have has been dragged away involuntarily. So your attention got dragged by your mind. You've chosen to place it on the breathing. It went somewhere else. That's fine. That's what your attention does, and not just with your mind, with TV, with the radio, with thinking about your past, or worrying about the future, all of these different things, a bit of social media, an email, a piece in the news, your attention gets dragged. Ultimately, what meditation starts to do is give you more say-so in where does your attention sit most of the time. And you'll probably notice there are times in your life, times in all our lives, when our attention gets pulled in 1,000 different directions. And we know what that experience is. We feel incredibly fragmented and overwhelmed because your attention is all over the place. And that is a very unpleasant feeling. And without some awareness of that and understanding about why and what we can do about it, it's meditation. So once we understand that, then we can defragment ourselves and get ourselves less overwhelmed, because we're starting to understand what this game of attention is all about. Okay, so enough talking by me. Let's do another meditation. Just invite you once again to take your seat, get comfortable, take a nice deep breath in, let it all the way out. And see if you can just let go of everything I just talked about. Let go of all of your worries, responsibilities, concerns. Take another deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. And as you let it out, see if you can let go of any tension you're holding in your body. but also letting go of any tension you're holding in your mind and allow yourself just to be present in this moment. Allow your breathing to return to normal. And we're going to play with this thing we call our attention. We're going to choose to direct our attention at this next breath. And then if your attention is still on your breathing, it's still on your breathing. And then just see if you can pay attention again to the next breath. Now, one of the ways it can help to hold attention for a little bit longer in the present moment is to get very specific and really narrow our focus. So see if you can narrow your focus to a tiny point just inside your nose or on your lip. Just looking at a really small spot, focusing really narrowly on one tiny spot and just looking at that sensation. See if you can start to notice how your mind is trying to pull your attention away. So let's place our attention deliberately on this next breath. And then I'll leave you in silence, just 30 seconds, a minute or so. Just see if you can place your attention there and simply notice how your mind kicks in to try and pull your attention away. So the exercise is not about trying to fight your mind and somehow stop it from doing that. But we are becoming more skillful at this awareness of our own attention, of starting to become aware from moment to moment, where is our attention? And when it gets dragged away, that's part of the exercise. It's a really valuable part of the exercise. So noticing that your attention gets pulled involuntarily, and then choosing to deliberately place your attention back over and over on the next breath. Another way of perhaps keeping our attention in the present moment a little bit longer is to widen our focus beyond just a tiny sensation. Perhaps to notice the entire aspect of breathing, the sensations, but also how your body moves. And perhaps starting to also notice so many sensations in your body, from your feet, from your seat, your back, maybe even the subtle sensations on your face. See if you can open your attention to hold so many different things that are happening in this moment, this breath. All your body sensations. So in this moment, you have this breath and all of these sensations. And see if you can widen your attention a little bit more and also start to become aware of the various different sounds, moment to moment. So really widening your attention to include this breath, all the physical sensations in your body, and the sounds from moment to moment. Let's take a deep breath in and let it all out. So, building blocks, those three, so valuable. Attention, focus, awareness. This is the game. That's the game. And then the rest are sort of playing around the edges. But that's the game. That's what we're getting better at. So every time we meditate, we're playing with this incredibly important part of ourselves, our attention, our focus, our awareness. So that's 3 out of the way. So now there's this other thing. This is a big one. And it's just much more helpful, I think, if it's explained rather than you trying to work it out. And it literally, this took me years and years and years. And I'd heard so many things talked about and they kind of made sense, but it was always a little bit amorphous. You've heard this expression, be here now, or the power of now, sort of Eckhart Tolle or whatever. So there's this sense in which, how do we be present? You heard it, being mindful, being present, all this kind of stuff. So what is that all about, really? So I think it's helpful to sort of see this from the perspective of philosophers, psychologists, and actually now Buddhists and neuroscientists. They divide our perception of reality into 2 categories. Now, neither of these categories is right, and neither of these categories is wrong. They are different, and they're both valid, and they're both important. So one perception of reality is what's known as sort of ordinary reality, or continuous reality. And that is the sense we have in which there is a past, there is a present, and there is a future. And that is the normal human perception of life. If you put a book down on a table and you turn away, you turn around, guess what? The book is normally, it's still there. So just because you turned away didn't stop reality from existing. Reality continued to exist outside of your specific perception. You remember things from the past. You plan things for the future. This sense of a continuous reality is quite helpful for day-to-day living. So the idea of learning from our past or planning for the future, quite valuable things. So that's the sense of continuous reality or ordinary reality, is the normal human perception of reality. Now, there's another way of looking at reality. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. At least that's my perception. And that is another way of looking at reality, is that there is no past, there is no future, there is only right now. This is the big Eckhart Tolle thing, almost to a slightly ridiculous degree. But I think there are the extremes when you sort of say, no, there really is no past, there really is no future. And yet, of course, that is the human experience, and it's quite a useful way to live our lives day to day. But what is also true is that there is only right now. And that is this perception of the present, or perception of immediacy, that there is only this moment right now. And when we live with this perception of only being here right now, it's amazing how freeing it can be. And there are all these aspects of consciousness and experience that come to us when we are simply fully present. So attention, focus, awareness, a lot of this is, these are all, the game is where you apply this now to this version of reality. And the idea is that in meditation, it's worth trying to try on this perception of reality, that there is only this moment, exactly as it is. And there are lots of different games you can play to try to become more present. And part of it, of course, is about playing with attention and focus and different aspects like that. But one of the things I quite like to do is, I know this is a bit paradoxical, but just bear with me, is there's this idea that the cosmologists will tell us that the universe is 13.8 billion years old. So it's taken 13.8 billion years for us to get to this moment right now. And for all of our responsibilities, ideas, plans, hopes, dreams, fears, regrets, all the stuff in our life, everything that's difficult and everything else, everything that's perfect, everything that's we wish was different. Nevertheless, it's taken 13.8 billion years of the most insane set of coincidences for us to be right here. For us to miss this moment is almost criminal, really, to be worrying about the past or worrying about the future. 13.8 years, billion years of insane coincidences to get to this moment. So, in that respect, I find that helpful as a way of just letting go of everything. Like, it's irrelevant. Everything past is irrelevant. Everything future is irrelevant. There is only this moment right now. There's a commentator. He's really a commentator of Buddhism, but he doesn't. He's only really giving respect to the framework that is Buddhist. He's actually just tried to use that, and he thinks it's useful as a framework to explain what ultimate versions of perception of reality are worth. And I quite like his line. He sort of says, for the purposes of meditation, assume that nothing exists outside of the sensations and the experiences you are having right now in this moment. Nothing else exists. And then the moment you come out of meditation, it's quite useful to remember that there are consequences from the past and there are consequences of what you do now into the future. So you can hold both. And in meditation, we are playing with a little bit more of present moment reality, or what some of the philosophers or the Buddhists call ultimate reality, or Eckhart Tolle call ultimate reality, which is just this moment. And I think people can get into a struggle of like, well, is that real? I mean, but there is a past and there is a future, but I'm trying to be in the now. I think it's much easier if you give up that struggle and say both are valid. It's useful to remember past and to think about the future. But it's also a source of tremendous stress and worry because of the way the brain works. So with the brain, we tend to regret a lot of things from our past. We're quite negative oriented for lots of reasons. So we tend to often look back with regret. I mean, sometimes we look back with pleasant memories and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of it is about regret about what we didn't do, what we shouldn't have said, or what we should have done, or all those kinds of things. And then there's an awful lot about looking forward and worrying that we're not going to get what we think we need, or that things are going to turn out right, or that things are going to go wrong, or there's a lot of what we call catastrophic thinking into the future about everything that's going to go wrong. None of that is terribly helpful. Planning, helpful. Risk management, helpful. Crazy worry and getting sort of all this stuff getting amplified, that's not helpful. So recognizing that that's just one version of perceiving reality. And the meditation view of reality is, what if we're training ourselves in that other aspect of perceiving reality as just being now? So there's only now. It's just you and me. And hopefully not my dad calling again. Okay, so let's give this a go. Yeah, so another meditation. Just invite you to take your seat, get comfortable, take a nice deep breath in, and let it all the way out. Once again, take a nice deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. This time let it out very slowly, releasing any tension in your face, in your shoulders, in your body. Allow your breathing to return to normal. And we're just going to play with this idea that there is only right now. And what is true right now is the sensations you can feel in your breathing and in your body. There are the sensations from your nose, your lips, your feet, your hands, There is just this moment right now. Letting go of all things past, all things future. Being right here, right now. Perhaps also being aware of any sounds. But instead of perceiving the sounds as continuous things, such as the hum of a fan or passing of a car, see if you can simply be aware of the sensation of the sound from moment to moment as a sound, not as something you identify, but just that you are hearing something in this moment. We are placing our attention deliberately just into this moment, this breath. These sensations in your body. And sounds being detected by your ears from moment to moment. One thing that is sometimes helpful for holding us in the present moment is to see if you can sort of put on this air of childlike curiosity. You see a child perhaps in the grass looking at the grass or insects or petals on a daisy, completely fully absorbed in exploring something new, fully present. See if you can pull on that air of curiosity as you experience this moment in its entirety. Looking at this breath as if it was the first time. Of course, it is the first time and only time you will ever look at this breath. Looking with curiosity at how your body knows how to breathe. This impulse to breathe in, and then that impulse to relax and breathe out. That curiosity can keep us fully absorbed in this moment, looking in detail at the sensations in our feet, or in our legs, in our arms, in our chest, in our face. So you can just perceive sound that your ears are perceiving from moment to moment without trying to identify the source, just noticing sound. When your attention is pulled away, just noticing that that is also what has happened in this moment. Your mind has kicked in and is having a thought. And then pull your attention back to the present moment and this breath, these sounds, these sensations. I invite you to take a deep breath in and let it all the way out. Then gently opening your eyes, noticing different shapes and colors, and connecting yourself fully back into the room. Okay, so halfway through, or at least we're halfway through the 8. Relatively quickly, let's have a quick go. So 2 important little things to throw in. The first one, there's this thing called non-striving. I always just leave this out, but it's quite important, really. So what do we mean by non-striving? Non-striving is not about being passive and just accepting everything. It's not about giving up on your goals or what you hope for. I'm sure you come to meditation because you want to feel better, and you're like, oh, when am I going to feel less stressed? That's what I came for. I want clarity and wisdom and power and peace and quiet and well-being and happiness. Yeah. So striving would be, in this meditation, I'm going to hold perfect concentration and I'm going to feel great, and I'm feeling really overwhelmed now, and I really want to feel relaxed and non-stressed. So striving is about trying to achieve something very specific. Non-striving is not about perhaps not trying to do that, but in non-striving, we are being very specific that we are just going to follow the process. So it's very process. Guess what? It's about being very present in this moment, not where are we trying to get to. So decide where you're trying to get to. And one of the ways you're going to do that is through meditation. So then we just focus on the process of meditation. So when you sit down to meditate, it's really, really helpful if you can give up trying to achieve a specific thing in the meditation, because meditation works very counterintuitively. The harder you try to achieve something in meditation, well, that aspect of you that's trying to achieve something is by definition not present. So because it's living into the future, it's trying to achieve something into the future. It's trying to change the present. And what we're doing when we're fully present is that we're non-striving. So you could almost say, why do you say non-striving, Justin? You could just say be present, because there's no striving in being present. That's true. But it's just another perhaps angle on being present that I think is quite helpful as a way of looking at being present and it's really helpful. Of course, you're going to sort of say, oh, I'm feeling really stressed, I should meditate. Well, the moment you decide that, that's fine. That's okay. Sensible. But then just to focus on the process. And the process is simply be present. And then when your attention goes somewhere, that's fine. Your attention has gone somewhere. Notice that. And then bring yourself back into this present reality. Which brings me on very quickly to the next really, really important one. So you'll hear me say this a lot. Gently, gently. Gently, gently. And what I mean by that is that we are really trying to practice this thing of non-judgment. Now, judgment, really helpful, or at least discernment, this ability to discern what is good for us, what is bad for us, what we like, what we don't like, what we believe, what we don't believe, what we agree with, what we disagree with. All that is really valuable in life. It's really not useful in meditation. So what we try to do is we try to leave judgment at the door in meditation. Because again, judgment has a place in this sort of continuous reality. So when we're sort of thinking about past and present and future, and we're looking at things and we're trying to discern what we agree with, what we disagree with, that's all in that continuous reality. When we're being present, we're in a present reality. What we're trying to do is to be just present in this reality exactly as it is, leaving all of our beliefs, opinions, ideas, judgments, leaving all that out of it. None of that has a place in present reality. They all have a place in continuous reality, but when we're meditating, it's best not to have judgment. Now, that we apply in quite a meta way. So you have to apply non-judgment to the meditation itself. Really important to apply non-judgment to when you get distracted. It's really important to apply non-judgment to your own mind. But when your mind is just being torn in 1,000 different ways and you are incredibly busy, it's going to be really helpful if you don't judge it. It's also going to be really helpful if you think, oh, I can't meditate now. I can't meditate now because my mind's all over the place. I can't get any stillness. No, that's the time you do want to do it. Just stick with the exercise. And actually, when your mind is all over the place, next week we're going to have a different set of techniques that are going to be really valuable for that. This whole idea of noting and things. But anyway, we'll get to that next week. Okay, so non-striving, non-judgment. And then there's this other thing of non-attachment. So it's really about letting go. So non-striving, non-judgment, non-attachment. By non-attachment, what I mean in meditation, it is that we will often, maybe a thought comes into your mind, and it's one of those really sticky, really delicious thoughts. It's really important. This is a really important thought. I've got to think about this. Well, I need to, because I've got to plan for what I'm doing on Saturday, or who's going to pick up the kids, or whatever is that really sticky, or you've got a cure for cancer. Whatever is that really sticky, important thought, you think, oh, but I have to go. So in meditation, the mind is tricky. It's clever. It's sneaky. It's powerful. It's very persuasive that you need to be thinking about this right now. Okay, I understand that. And then what we try and do, so there's this really valuable skill in seeing a thought. When you see a thought, the moment you see a thought, and you can take that step back from it, we let it go. We try not to be attached to the thought. So this is a really useful thing we do in meditation, and we do it over and over and over and over and over again, is we let go. We let go of that thought. We detach from the thought. Now, one of the things about attention that I didn't mention is that attention got this special skill that anything it looks at, it amplifies. So if you look very specifically at negativity, negativity gets bigger and you feel worse and worse and worse. If you focus on positivity, that also amplifies and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So once you place attention to a thought, let's say you think, oh, interest rates are going up, or inflation's going up, or politics, or something, or Trump, or whatever it is that's on your mind. Once you give that thought and then you pay attention to that thought, you now give it energy and you amplify it and it gets momentum. And then you think, well, but what about this? And what about that? And what about the other thing? And all of a sudden, this thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, in meditation, we're learning how to play with attention. And one of them is that we don't get attached to the thought. Have the thought. When you notice you're having the thought, just see if you can see it and then detach. And one of the ways that it's often said to give this one sort of little trick is you just say, thank you, mind. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And mean it with generosity and kindness towards your mind, non-judgment of your mind. But thank your mind for this. It's trying to help you. It meant well, but we're not doing that right now. So you say thank you, and then you go back to the present moment. So these three things: non-judgment, non-striving, let it go. Okay, so let's try and put that into practice with another meditation. Invite you, we'll do a little bit shorter this time because I've still got a couple to go, one or two to go, lost count. But okay, so once again, invite you to take your seat and try and let go of everything we've just talked about. And simply, we're not striving, we're not judging, we're not being attached. We're just going to be in this moment. From moment to moment, we're going to focus on the process. When we get distracted, we're going to try not to judge, because that has no place in the meditation. We're going to try not to judge ourselves, try not to judge our mind, try not to judge the meditation. Simply follow the process. So letting everything go, take a nice deep breath in. And let it all the way out. Once again, take a nice deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. Now let it go nice and gently, releasing any tension in your body, in your face. And allow your breathing to return to normal. And see if you can let go of any expectation of what this meditation is supposed to look like. So we're not going to judge it. We're going to be open and accepting of the next 4 and a bit minutes exactly as they are. Perhaps applying curiosity to this breath, noticing the sensations in detail. Just trying to pay attention to the process. The process is being present in this moment, not trying to achieve anything, simply being in this moment with this breath, with the sensations in our body, with the sounds that we experience from moment to moment. And when you notice your attention has been dragged away, we're really trying to avoid judging that, because that is what is true in this moment. Your mind did its thing. We say thank you, and then return our attention back to the present, back to this breath, back to the various sensations in our body. Back to the sounds that we experience from moment to moment. I invite you to take a deep breath in and let it all the way out. Very gently, perhaps opening your eyes, seeing different colors and shapes, connecting yourself back into the room. Okay, so very quickly, the last building block, which is the secret sauce to present moment awareness, in my opinion. And again, it sort of fits in with everything else. These things aren't in an order, they interplay with each other, and they're all important. But I just think it's really helpful to break this down in terms of what are we doing in this meditation? It's about awareness, it's about attention, it's about focus, It's about present moment, this thing, present being present, this different version of reality where we let go of the past, we let go of the future, and we're just trying to be here. And it's about non-judgment, non-striving, non-attachment. So letting everything go, not trying to achieve anything, just being in the process, which is in this present moment, not judging anything, being open and accepting of this moment as it is. Non-attachment, letting go when we get attached. Now, the secret sauce that pulls all of that together, and I've already mentioned it, this thing called curiosity. So curiosity might have killed the cat, but it's the bees and E's. It's the secret sauce to mindfulness meditation. Sort of what we're talking about here is this sense of being open and curious and looking in exquisite detail and being really finely tuned to each sensation, to every little vibrational impulse that strikes you from sounds or your body or your breathing, and just being really sensitive to that and really looking at it really closely with openness and that childlike curiosity. So that, in my opinion, is just, it's the way of being able to hold ourselves for longer periods of time in just that perception of present moment reality. And again, there's no striving, there's no judgment, there's just awareness, focus, and attention with curiosity. Okay, that's the game. So let's then finish with a good meditation. I'll try and weave everything we've done. And just to reiterate that in the daily meditations for the next week, we will be covering each of these on different days. And of course, on one day, we'll probably bring curiosity in on all the days. So let's take a nice deep breath, take a seat, get comfortable. If you need to stretch a little bit, you've been sitting for 70 minutes, 80 minutes or something. So if you need to stretch, go ahead. And then when you're ready, take a nice deep breath in and let it all the way out. And once again, take a nice deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. Now let it out nice and slowly, releasing any tension you're holding in your face, your shoulders, in your body. And see if you can allow yourself, just for the next 9 minutes or so, to try on this view of reality where there is only this moment now. No past, no future to worry about. Just for 9 minutes, see if you can simply be present, directing your attention and your focus into this moment right now. And the traditional way of doing this is just to pay attention to this breath. But if we're being really present, there is no breath. What we might normally consider to be a breath is made up of hundreds of tiny little moments, even in one single breath. And almost see how many sensations can you be aware of in a single inhale. See if you can notice the different sensations in your feet. And as you look at them closely with curiosity, really looking at the texture, the nature of the sensation, intellectually, you know that that sensation is from your feet, but really just look at the sensation rather than thinking of it as coming from your feet. What is that sensation really up close look like, feel like? What is your experience? Becoming aware of the sensation of your body moving as you breathe. Your chest and your belly moving of its own free will. Again, each breath is actually an infinite number of tiny little moments. Letting the sensation throughout your body, as well as this breath. If you notice yourself trying to achieve something or trying to judge something, feeling it's not going well or it's not how you want it to be, or your mind shouldn't have interrupted you, noticing that that is true, but seeing if you can then let it all go. Give yourself permission to just start again. You might like to keep your focus really narrow, looking really closely at a specific set of sensations like your feet or the breath. Or you can open your focus very wide, taking in everything that's present in this moment, every little sensation, sound, being aware of this breath and these sensations and sounds. So, last couple of breaths, just giving yourself permission to be fully present from moment to moment. I invite you to take a nice deep breath in, let it all the way out. Particularly as we come to the last meditation at the end of the class. I invite you to be very gentle as you transition. See if you can carry some of this attention and presence with you into the rest of your evening. And very gently opening your eyes, connecting yourself back to the colors and shapes in your room. Once again, thank you ever so much for your attention, for your participation and support. Hope to see you same time, same place next week, or maybe also on the daily meditations. Till then, have a great evening and have a great week. Thanks very much, everybody.